Welcome to Rags to Riches, the Ironman gear progression tailored specifically to completing the Chambers of Xerics challenge mode raid solo. From the scuffed early game Ironman gear to the endgame best in slot items, we will be recreating our gear progression by changing and upgrading gear between each raid that we complete. You don't need a twisted bow to begin doing challenge mode raids, but it certainly is a lot more fun when you do have one. Welcome back to another episode of Rags to Riches. We've made it to episode 10. Okay, I said that. That sounds like this is the last episode. It's really not. We still got a few more iterations of setups to get through. But here on 10, and quite frankly, in the last few episodes, we've been getting some major upgrades. You can see right here already, we're now in full Torva. Full Torva, that's right. We got the Torva plate body and plate legs on back-to-back days, let me tell you. So we're still in 2024 right now, but it is now August. I have the exact dates right here. August 6th, we got the Torva legs. August 7th, we got the body. Well, those are the only two upgrades for this raid, but it's pretty massive. I mean, full Torva on an Ironman. Now, okay, yeah, it wasn't Blood Torva. We didn't go for Blood Torva quite yet, but I'm not about to revert my Torva in the name of this episode. I'm sorry. As with all the episodes we've been doing, there are a few exceptions to our gear. We've been trying to recreate the exact gear setups we've had to the best of our abilities, with a few exceptions. First things first, Vernic treads. Those did not exist. I had Primordial boots, but I don't have Primordial boots on my Ironman anymore, so that's unfortunate. Ultor ring, didn't have the Ultor ring yet, or actually, you know what? I'm going to have to fact check that. I have indeed fact checked, and I did not have the Ultor ring at this point. So we're going to pretend that this is the Berserker ring. Again, I don't have a Berserker ring anymore because obviously that turned into the Ultor ring for me these days, but yeah, so that's another exception. I mentioned the Blood Torva. Obviously, we didn't have Blood Torva. Same thing with the fan kit. Although, now that I have full Torva and a Tumican Shadow, which the Tumican Shadow was the big upgrade from episode 9. Around this time, I was going for the fan kit, I do believe. Nevertheless, with the exceptions now mentioned, everything else is pretty true to form. Let's get into the raid. It's pre-pot, and then I guess we can bring an angler in, just to heal back up after overloading. Let's get into it. Oh, couple of misclicks there. Okay. But yeah, we managed to get our hands on a Tumican Shadow from the newest raid of the 3, and we managed to get full Torva, and despite camping Chambers of Xerics, going hard on it, like running multiple a day, every day, in the entirety of 2024 pretty much, we still don't have our hands on a twisted bow, which was the thing we wanted the most. That's why we went so hard on doing chambers, solo chambers. But yeah, it's just funny how RNG works. I actually put a lot of time in Nex as well, don't get it mistaken. And as I mentioned in the previous video, my Tumican Shadow was the 25th purple at TOA, which is 1 over rate. Because it's a 1 in 24, I believe. So these were definitely very well earned, although I gotta say, at Nex, I was a little bit lucky in the sense that I managed to get all 3 Torva pieces like that and had very little dupes. I think I did have a Torva helm dupe before I completed the Torva set, but only 1 dupe. That is quite fortunate, I'd gotta say. But hey, there's a trade-off somewhere, because with the lack of a twisted bow, I think at this point, I probably had like 3 Elder Maw pulls. Okay, this Tekton has been quite slow. My thrall just expired. Okay, these days, speaking about the thrall, I do have like a 2-minute thrall. I am master tier, and there was a relatively recent update that gave the GM time thralls to master tier players as well. So kind of got a freebie there, honestly. But for one thing, I don't think I was master tier yet during this era, and well, my thrall times definitely weren't 2 minutes long. Even if I was master tier, but I'm pretty sure I was not. Okay, that's Tekton complete. Okay, I think I made a mistake here, looking at my inventory. I was like, I have 1 less inventory space than I should, and that's because I brought in the salve by mistake. We don't actually need that. We're going to be shadowing mystics, just as we did in the previous episode. But I guess when I was making these setups for these Rags to Riches videos, I mistakenly kept in the salve. But we'll just put that in private storage. The only difference it makes here is that we have to drop that enhance on the ground and pick it back up. Okay, if we're quick enough, we can smash this crab and then create inventory space. Come here, crab. Come here. Okay, we're good. I was actually looking for my fang, but my fang actually ended up at the top of my inventory there. Okay, we are going to be scavving like in all our raids, but inventory full, so what we're going to have to do is drop... okay. Okay, I was a little lost as to what I was doing there. Like, I lost my train of thought, and I was also... I just short-circuited right there. But yeah, we drop our potions over there to make room, and then we begin scavving. I, like, skipped over a few steps there. I was like, huh? But yeah, we're gonna need to get our hands on some planks. As well as juice and mushrooms. We don't need Sicily because we already have the enhance. So right here, very fortunate from the 1 scav, that is exactly what we need. 1 extra juice even. Build the storage. And then we're going to equip our Elder Maul here and then deposit all. We're going to be speccing Ice Demon 1 time with the Elder Maul. Hopefully it lands. These potions and stuff we dropped over here, we need to pick those back up. And we also need this tinderbox. These potions, we're going to need to drag them to the bottom of our inventory. Just so when we withdraw everything back for Ice Demon, things are exactly where they should be. Mostly irrelevant here, but for what it's worth, our Inferno Cape, at the time, we only had 1 Inferno KC on the account, and I definitely turned it into the Max Cape variant, but right now we're just using a regular Inferno Cape. Yeah, we're just skipping over steps on this raid apparently because I just dropped my axe and tinderbox right there and had to pick that back up. I was like, I got some more chopping to do, you know? We're getting ahead of ourselves. Okay, so 2 full inventories into the braziers now, and from now to about 35%, it's just, you know, as much as we can. sometimes we get really lucky on our drops and we end up getting a full third inventory. Okay, so we chuck that in. Now we can drop the axe and tinderbox. We go into private, withdraw all, and then there's actually a lot of things we can put away. Most of these things down here, actually. And then just make sure we have our overload enhance on us. We're going to spec one time. Very fortunately, it lands. And then we're going to be using the Shadow on Ice Demon. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, during this time, this was around August of 2024. So Ice Demon was not yet weak to Demon Bane. And obviously during this time, Emberlight, while Gothic Sleeps, Yama, Tormented Demons, all of that did not exist. So no Emberlight. And even if we had an Arclight, well, I mean, obviously we did have an Arclight. Yeah, it's not the meta at this point in time. Oh, we forgot to take out our rune pouch, so we can't even summon thralls right now. I do like this method. This method you can also use with a T-bow, and I think depending on whether or not you land a hammer, that's the difference between the shadow being better than the twisted bow or vice versa. I don't quite remember the details of that. I mean, these days it's irrelevant because you would want to be either... If you're in a team CM, you would probably be either fire surging or using your Emberlight and Burning Claws. Okay, well, let's get our rune pouch out. Turn our run energy back on because we got to get to moving. And as I mentioned earlier, when I say earlier, I mean the previous episode, the shadow is better in a lot of places, with the exception of Shamans here. The Bofa actually out DPS's the shadow setup. At least for its time. I'm not sure how things are now with the magic damage redistribution and Avernic Treads being a factor and all that. I'm not entirely sure on that, but at the time I know for a fact the Bofa was better than the Shadow here at Shamans in challenge modes. Now regular chambers, that's a different story. I believe the Shadow's better. Unfortunately our ZCB missed there. Feels bad. Oh, I don't think that Shaman quite jumped in the correct spot. Oh, okay. Still works. There we go, Shaman room completed. Into the prep room, and I say this every episode, and every CM really. We prep the exact same way. Plant in both patches, restore our run energy, chuck away the potions, and temporarily the spade as well. Put everything away, spade back out, 13 juice, 8 shrooms, inventory full of vials. Drop 4 of those, we have exactly 21 vials now, which is exactly what we need. Once we have the vials filled with water, chuck 10 of them away into shared. I even have left click set to deposit 10. We're going to grab 8 butchers for our 8 mushrooms to make 8 restores. one more, I believe. There we go. Make our restores. As soon as we're done with that, put those away and take the 10 water vials back out of the storage. Now we have 13 vials and we have 13 inventory spaces for Buchu. Okay, unfortunately the patch broke there, but that's why we plant in both. Not that planting in both is like fail proof, but it's very unlikely that you're gonna break both patches, especially 99 farming, come on. Alright, we're done with our 13 brews. Chuck them away. Mage gear out. Melee gear out. And ZCB as a spec weapon. Thralls. Obviously overload, enhance, and then a restore and 2 brews. And off we go. Actually, getting all 3 styles of gear out is just out of habit. And I suppose for one specific reason, and that's just the ZCB spec. But the Shadow is actually better than the Bofa for the Mage Vanguard. We open up with the ZCB spec. I actually forgot to restore there, and my stats are drained, so that's kind of unfortunate. And then, in being distracted, I didn't follow the range Vanguard, so we're just gonna mage it from afar right here. We actually did pretty decent damage right there. The Twisted Bow and the Shadow are actually fairly decent on all the Vanguards. So in a pinch, it's worth throwing out a hit on the other ones, even if you're not in the ideal weapon and armor setup. So yeah, here we go. Shadowing the Major. Better DPS than the Bofa for sure. Although, with the way RNG is working right now, it's not really proving my point. I just hit 2 zeros and then 12. There we go. The game's trying to make me look bad. Alright, let's follow along to where the ranger's going. We really need to DPS this guy. And in classic fashion, I forgot to summon my thralls here at Vanguards. This is like a regular occurrence for me, just never remember. Almost done here with Vanguards. We're going to be picking up all the brews and revits and then... Ow, that hurt. And then obviously an overload and enhance. That should do the trick, I believe. Okay, very unfortunate. It digs, so it's going to survive with 1 health. There we go. We're going to want that overload. Okay, so in order to make sure I have room for grubs here, I'm going to sip this enhance and then drop it. That enhance is going to definitely carry us through Thieving Room and Vespula. That just makes room for the cavern grubs. These days, these are stackable, just like back at Ice Demon. The Kindling is also stackable these days, but back then that was not the case. So this just speeds up our ability to do this room a little bit. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, there's really nothing too interesting about the healing room. It never has been. It never has been an interesting room. So as we're thieving here, we're actually going to switch into our range gear. We're going to start Vespula with a ZCB spec. And I'm going to get rid of the crystal helmet now. This is just for inventory space purposes for Bruce. And in the name of not having an overload mid-Vespula, I'm going to sip a brew there and then overload. And as we run here, ZCB on long range spec right here. Unfortunately, it misses. We're going to be doing Vespula with our Shadow. Much, much better DPS than the Bofa setup. And actually even better DPS than the Twisted Bow. One more decent hit should do the trick. Gonna start healing up here. And pick up all these potions. So with the 13 brews and 8 restores we prepped, and the fact that we're picking up all the pots from the bosses in these rooms, we definitely have a ton of supplies. Very comfortable. Okay, right here I'm going to put away one of the restores, take another brew out. And then we'll balance out our supplies a bit better just before we head to Guardians and floor 3 in general. Mentioned earlier that the Bofo is better than the Shadow for Shamans. But the Shadow is pretty much better everywhere else. The Torva helps out greatly right here, flicking into some ranged defense armor for these rangers. Although, don't get it twisted. They'll still, like, I can't speak. I was, like, trying to mix shred and, like, some other word. And then I ended up just combining all of it into a whole lot of nothing. Just sounds coming out of my mouth. But yeah, you can see we're still getting hit pretty hard here. But there we go. With the Shadow, we got through it pretty quickly. We're going to grab the Keystone Crystal here now. And we're also going to need to switch into our melee gear with the pickaxe. And of course the Ultor ring, let's not forget about that. We did camp the Light Bear because obviously we don't need the Ultor for Tightrope or Vespula. And we need the spec back. Okay, so for right here, I'm going to sip the stamina and I'm going to put that away. And then I'm going to fill my inventory up. We're going to have 2 restores and then the rest brews. In fact, I'm going to sip this 1 dose brew just to get out a full dose one. So we banked the stamina and we banked the crystal helm just to create more room so that we have enough brews. We're going to be getting some brews back from Vasa as well. Now, in episode 9, the previous episode, I mentioned during this era, I did die a few times on floor 3 because of the lack of inventory space, lack of brews to deal with all the damage we take at Muttadile. And you know, the few brew doses you had to sip here and there for Vasa and Mystics as well, it all just added up. As a compromise, I decided to bin the Crystal Helm, which does affect our DPS at Vasa a little bit. And the stamina, quite important back in the day to sip the stamina dose, so that we could get through Guardians and Vasa without running out of stamina. These days, honestly, you probably don't have to sip the stamina at all with the run energy changes, but I did so anyways, just for like accuracy purposes, I suppose, and also just comfort, you know, keep our stamina up nice and high. Overload expired. So the overload actually expired at a nice time here. I get to re-overload, and I know that it won't run out in the middle of Vasa. It could be kind of sketchy to overload in some rooms, like in the middle of some rooms, like Vespula, Vasa, and Muttadile, obviously. Okay, I do have a tile marked here for Vasa teleport skip. I'm not going to use it though, because, well, back then we didn't know about this technology. We have new technology. Okay, too busy talking here, but let's get into our range gear. ZCB spec. With the Ancestral hat on instead of the Torva helm, just slightly less range reduction. Make sure we get our Thrall going too. So having full Torva now, that does give us several extra max hits, I do believe. On top of just how tanky you become in full Torva, it's actually insane. One more hit there, and then onto the crystal. So at the time of this recording, we have Oathplate, we have Torva, and I don't know if Jagex intended for this to be the case. I think they wanted Oathplate to be... Or, let me rephrase, I get the impression they wanted Oathplate to be niche, and Torva to still be like the de facto best in slot armor, but it hasn't really been like that. In fact, now it seems like Torva is the niche armor, you know? It's like the TOA gear, because the like Slash and Oathplate is just so good at so many places. Okay, anyways, we're gonna sip restore here, combine the two into one inventory space. Now we can equip our shadow. Okay, I'm gonna need this Mystic to come over here so I can corner safe spot it. So we're not just getting absolutely ragged by the projectiles. A bit late to summon that Thrall, honestly. One Mystic down, 2 to go. So we're not going to be meleeing anything in the Muttadile room, but the Torva armor is going to help out greatly in tanking. It's going to really reduce the damage we take at Muttadile. Although sometimes you just never know. Sometimes I feel like the game and Muttadile just decides, you know what, you're dying today, and especially in a challenge mode, it's like, it is what it is. Sometimes you're just resigned to your fate. That's what it feels like anyways. I mentioned overload timing and how it's bad in some rooms, but it looks like we're going to be... You know what? We're going to purposely avoid that. We're going to sip a brew dose right now and overload, and then sip more brews, just so we don't have to overload in the middle of Muttadile. Okay, and in we go. We also should have just preemptively swapped into tank gear, instead of doing it while we're already in the room. That's okay though. Okay. Baby doll being at 56%, we're just going to stop hitting it now. We're going to focus on staying alive and chopping the tree. Almost done with the tree. One more chop. And then we're going to summon a thrall as well. Oop. We're employing the step under method, and we're also flicking into our tank armor. Same concept as we did at tightrope. There we go. Oh, and let's ZCB here. Oh, don't chop me. Oh, that was a that was a very scary and potentially fatal misclick right there. And once again, our ZCB misses. Why did we even bring this thing? Oh. So not bringing the crystal helm is a bit of a DPS loss. I know for a fact it's like 2.5% damage. Not quite sure on the details of the accuracy changes. But in the name of bringing more brews for survivability, I think it's worth it. Once we get our hands on a twisted bow, on the other hand, you know, like, this is not something we have to concern ourselves with. If we had a twisted bow, we would already be at home right now, I gotta say. We'd be in the fight. Okay, let's pick up those supplies. I don't know why I didn't pick those up there, where I usually do that every single time. Okay, as we run the ohm here, we're going to heal all the way back up. And we're also going to adjust our inventory here. So we want our range gear in the second tier, second row of our inventory. So we swap into our mage gear first and then melee. So that puts our mage gear at the top. And then let's put away everything we don't need. First things first, we get the lance to replace our fang that we have equipped. To make sure we don't actually bring the fang in. That would be tragic. And then Dragon Hunter crossbow and buckler. Still not going to bring the crystal helm in. And then we're not bringing the bofa in either. So this is where, you know... Okay, alright, I just thought about it real quick. In the previous runs, we would bin our what is our Torva legs in this run, but was the tacets in favor of inventory space. But what we're going to do here is we're going to be sipping the stamina dose and then banking it so that we still have the same amount of brews and restores that we always use. We're going to reorganize our inventory a little bit here. Looks like an absolute mess, but yeah, you can see here we have the exact amount of brews and restores that we always have in every single run, that being 5 brews and 2 restores. So with that, we are good to go. Let's pick these pots up from the ground and just double checking one last time. We are good to go. Hammer unfortunately misses, but we're gonna send another hammer, as when we're doing the mage running, we're gonna be equipping the light bearer anyways. We actually get the good spawn here, and what I mean is that we're gonna get the damageless 12-0 side of mage running twice. I say damageless as I mess up there, and then I take 9 damage. Yeah, you know, assuming you actually, you know, are a good player and stay in cycle, you're gonna take 0 damage on the side, but hey, we messed up. Okay, looks like we did not finish the hand here. Okay, now on to the melee hand. Look at the Torva coming into play, a 0 range off prey. We'll sip of stamina here. We're gonna have to 3-1 twice here, I think. Did I just do that a third time? I might have just did that a third time. Yeah, I done goofed. Oh, Torva coming into play again. We only got hit a 3 off prey. The Torva's tankiness is honestly ridiculous. Like, never mind the offensive stats it gives you, right? But, like, it's just absolutely... You're an absolute unit. Both in looks and stat-wise in Torva. P2. So here we are on the 8-1 side. We're gonna be taking damage. Just because we want to be efficient with our hits. Okay, unfortunately it didn't turn right there. We're gonna be taking 2 hits now. That's honestly very unlucky that the head doesn't turn, because you have your thrall going, which is supposed to prevent that from happening, but that can still happen. Okay, so the crystal came out from the floor, so we're gonna 1-0 once, and we also got auto twice, so after the 1-0, we're gonna 3-1 here. And we should be in cycle. Okay. That was user error right there. I lost a tick. hit a max hit right there, but we weren't fully potted, unfortunately. Ouch. You know, the Torva might be great for tanking range hits, but not so much mage hits. There we go, P2 complete. Took a bit of damage there, but we're still good, all things considered. Unfortunately, hammer misses. Light bearer on though, so we'll have spec again. So I'm pretty comfortable with the shadow mage running method these days, but I gotta say when I was learning it, it was actually kind of frustrating. And it wasn't frustrating because it was difficult in the traditional sense, like, you know, like I just don't understand what's going on. It was just because like it was very tough to get the practice in for it, because you would just absolutely blast the hand and it'd be dead before you knew it. So I would be constantly trying to get in the cycle, but like all the hits I would do, like it would just finish the hand, and I'm like, oh, I hit the hand like 9 times and now it's dead. It's like, well, it's too powerful. Okay, I walked back into that falling crystal. That's on me. I'm brewing there because that's technically chance range. Max hit is a 43, I was 41. Not risking it. Although I probably have, you know, tanked a few of those. 31! Oh, crossbows are still on long range. That's not good. That 6 ticks them. Definitely not all. You know, that wasn't a max hit there, but I got comboed out by the falling crystal. That's quite unfortunate. You know, if you're gonna do this raid thousands upon thousands of times, for one thing, you're gonna start getting careless, and also mistakes are gonna happen. It is what it is. Oh my god, we're... that was crazy. The only way to prevent what just happened to me there is, well, you know, one, you know, try not eating a falling crystal next time, noob, right? But also, don't even sit that low health, you know? I think if I was a group hardcore, I'd probably be like 70 health minimum at all times. I say group hardcore because regular hardcores have safe stats in chambers, but not group hardcores. If you ask me, group hardcores are the real hardcores. Yeah, if I was a group hardcore, I'd probably be packing a lot more supplies rather than switches. Also, I probably wouldn't be soloing if I was a group hardcore. It's a name, you know, it implies to have a group. Well, that is another raid completed. Honestly, very sad that I died, but I mean, most of the run went pretty well. I'm not gonna re-record just to hide the fact that I planked or anything like that. It's fine. You know, we got the message across, you know, like, you know, this new setup with full Torva. And hey, it goes to show you, you know, you could be in some tanky gear, but then if you just don't play correctly, boom, you're dead. Okay, I have no inventory space right now. What's our loot? Quarms and sapphires, 373k worth of loot. Alright, there we have it. We're now in the full Torva era, and you know what? In combination with the Xerite Vambraces that we did pull a while ago, I'm speaking as if we were in August 2024 here. We already had the Xeric Vambraces, we already had the Torva Helm, and we recently got the Xeric Crossbow, and now we have full Torva. I was effectively done with Nex at this stage.